Engineer,
Yes, sir.
you can. Okay, it's okay. Don't worry. Let me just. We're streaming live already. And, we're not recording yet. Let me.
Hmm.
This is very beautiful. I've never done this extensive live streaming before. This is my first time.
Hmm. Yes, sir.
No. Okay, it's okay. Don't worry. That's an echoing back from the Facebook.
Okay.
That's an echoing back from the Facebook.
Okay. Have you guys joined? I'm almost there. I'm already on the conference field. It's time. No, he made a mistake. It's Nigeria time 4 p.m. So it's 4 p.m. So he made a mistake. You should have written 10. That Dobra.
Give me 1 second. Let me.
Yeah. So he made a mistake. It's Nigeria time 4 p.m. So this guy forgot to bring. Okay. So he made a mistake. You should have written 10. That Dobra. Very clear. In fact, the man is excited. So it's never been this clear from Nigeria. It's very, very. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I forgot to bring. Okay. Very clear. In fact, the man is excited. So it's never been this clear from Nigeria.
Okay. Admit.
Oh, Janelle.
Engineer, are you ready?
Yes, very ready.
Good. Thank you. Good morning and welcome. I am David Olali. We have an important guest in the house today, and
Oh, Janelle.
discussing an important subject uh, with us, the Ijaw national reforms. I have Ambassador, excuse me, Engineer Charles Ambayowe, that will taking us through his thoughts and discuss on what the Ijaw people, what he calls the just struggle. We want to understand more. We want to learn from him. Uh, we hope that viewers, listeners, other interrogators, those who have questions, can respectfully participate in this series. This is part of the comparative heritage series of conversations, if you may. And comparative heritage essentially is a research that involves examining how meaning is produced across cultures. I hope today we'll learn one or two things from and be able to we'll come off thinking, new ways around how we mean what we mean in our different spheres of human endeavors. Engineer Charles Abayo, welcome. The floor is now yours.
Good evening from Nigeria. It's good to be given this privilege and honor and opportunity. Let me thank patrons who have found time to join. Without much niceties, I'll go straight to the subject matter, believing that excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you are all acknowledged. Today, I'll discuss the Ijaw national reforms, and I say sensitization on key issues of Ijaw struggle. It is all too important for us to know what the key issues are, or even talk more to be sensitized about them. Because as a struggle progresses, sometimes people grow weary, people get lassituated, and other diminishing factors set in, particularly what we need is to reinvent and reform and actually reposition. The first issue I have therefore conceptualized is what I will call the fundamental basis, which is the concept of Ijaw unity and our desire to exist as a united area. When we find ourselves settled in this coastal part, the Niger Delta, it was a natural, undisturbed, unperturbed contiguity we had. When the British came, we have the records of treaties signed with our forebears. They were treaties of protection. They were not treaties that we were subservient to anybody. But then Nigeria was formed. But even before the formation of Nigeria itself, by a gradual piecemeal approach, the British have succeeded in bringing the various components of different ethnic nationalities, either from Oil Rivers Protectorate, the one they call the Northern Protectorate, Lagos Colony, Western Protectorate, Eastern Protectorate. So the summary is that in 1939, when the Southern Protectorate of Nigeria was divided, they used the River Niger to be the dividing point between the west and the southeastern part of Nigeria. That automatically divided the Ijaws and our territory into two. So strangely, we now found ourselves under the new government system and political administration. The Ijaws were now divided into two. The implication is that in the eastern region, as it later became, or in the western region, as it later turned out to be, we Ijaws were now in subjugation, or more or less, under two different ethnic, cultural, language, and otherwise speaking people. We had the Igbo in the east, we had the Yoruba in the west. Not in language, not in culture, not in anything whatsoever we have affinity with. Now, this was going to be fundamental in altering our unity. It was going to be fundamental in how our political drive, emancipation, and reach was going to be. Our elders, our leaders at the time foresaw that this is quite a big problem. And so they had to have agitations. These agitations were that the Ijaw people will want to be united in administrative and political territory of their own, what they call create a state for us. We fear that the majority tribes will be dominant and will not allow us express ourselves. That resulted to the British setting up the Willing Commission of Inquiry to look into the fears of the minorities. To cut a long story short, I will just give some extracts of the Willing report. And the fundamental one, I quote, says, "We cannot recommend political arrangements which would unite in one political unit the whole body of Ijaws. We suggest that there should be a federal board appointed to consider the problems of the area of the Niger Delta." The British said they cannot find grounds or reasons to keep Ijaw people united in our area or territory in political, administrative, homogeneous setting. And went on to recommend intervention agencies to deal with our issues or solve our development problems. So you can now clearly see the reasons why today whether it is PAP, Presidential Amnesty Program, whether it is NDDC. These are the interventionist agencies, which have not developed this area for anything. But I will also quote two more sections. The one that says, we are impressed in both the Western and Eastern regions with the special position of the people, mainly the Ijaws, in the swampy country along the coast from Opobo to the mouth of the Benin River. We were confronted with their own almost universal view that their difficulties were not understood at the headquarters in the interior. Secondly, with the widespread desire of the Ijaws to be united. This matter is a matter that requires special effort and cooperation of the federal, eastern, and western governments. It does not concern one region, and not only because it requires two regions, but because it is poor, backward, and neglected. And I want those three words to be underlined: poor, backward, and neglected. If at that time they thought we were poor, backward, and neglected, it didn't stop us, the Ijaws, from demanding in unison that leave us in that our poverty in a homogeneous and contiguous setting. Let's have our own administrative structures and pursue our development aspirations and growth in our own terms. So the underpinning issue here is that nobody should make mistake that the Ijaw demand for united area is because today we have crude oil. No. When we were poor, we insisted the same thing. Now that God has blessed us with bounty of oil, mineral, and crude and gas, shouldn't we still enjoy the same thing? The same united territory of our own? The last portion of the Willing Commission will interest you so much. They said, we are impressed by the arguments indicating that the needs of those who live in the creeks and swamps of the Niger Delta are very different from those of the interior. Not only because it involves two regions, but because it is poor and neglected. We agree that it is not easy for a government or legislature operating far inland to concern itself or even fully understand the problem of a territory where communication are so difficult, buildings so expensive, and education so scanty. And I dare say, between then and now, has anything changed dramatically? Because just today, now, as I speak with you, a survey released about the conditions of schools in Bayelsa State is so appalling. Meanwhile, it ought not to be so. Because the education system, everything is now centralized with the federal government dominance. And with our balkanized status, there are just in some areas that don't even have access to education. To build is a difficult thing. There is no single highway today as a road network that you will say it traverses through the Ijaw territory from eastern Obolo in Akwa Ibom, Ibeno area, within Ijaw territory that contiguously it passes until you go and eat Apoya Rogbo in Ondo State. None. The point I want to make here is that if we made a demand as a people that this is our desire, then we have every right to pursue and achieve that demand or desire. And the Ijaws are unequivocal about that. But because of over the years that we have been fractionalized into strange bedfellows, what we have seen is a steady dilution, destabilization, and derailment of that focus and agenda that was set by our forebears through that willing commission presentation. And so we need to call ourselves back. We need to call ourselves back to the basics. If we demand unity, if we desire to be in a united territory of our own, if the structures of governance and administration politically and economically should be vested within us, is it that we don't have the population? We do have. Is it that we don't have the landmass or territory required? We do have. So what then is the fundamental thing that this demand for Ijaws to be put together in a united political and administrative units? Why can't it be done by the government and Federal Republic of Nigeria? For me, I can see clearly what people may not see. Because the British, as imperialists and colonialists, had foreseen the wealth of our area. Even the biodiversity alone, they know is going to be monumental wealth. So they didn't want to create any separate region that will make us strong. Very strong. They don't want. Now, they handed over the country, and it is already out there by our people that at independence, power and control, including changing population figures, was done in favor of the North, which is the Hausa Fulani-dominated part of the country. That being the case, you don't need anybody to guess that the way the British contrived to balkanize, fractionalize, and make the Jaws not to be united, to have a common front and pursue their own self-actualization. Same way will the person who took over from far inland, who lacks resources, and have seen that it is from your economic wealth that they will sustain their growth. That man will continue in the steps of what the British have done. And that's fundamentally the trajectory that Nigeria has taken the Ijaw people through. Why is it that my compatriots, we don't understand this simple basis? So the big question is, if you take the timeline of 1939, when the protectorate of the southern Nigeria was balkanized to east and west, and you match it against some major event lines in this our pursuit for a united territory of existence. If you check between 1957 Willing Commission to that 1939, that will give you, in fact, first of all, if you take the 1939, when we were divided, come down to today, it is 82 years. If you take from the point you moved from up to 1939 to 1957, you will get 64 years. If you take that benchmark and match it against when 1963 Nigeria tried to create additional regions, when the motion to create the Calabar-Ogoja Rivers province or region That of Igbo will not allow us to go. The Hausa Fulani will not
Uh, excuse the network hiccup. I think,
so
okay.
we have 58 from 1960 to today, 58 years.
Engineer.
We're talking of this. Nigeria as balkanized the Ijaw people deliberately.
Um, I think we lost our speaker. Let's give him some minutes and see if he'll be able to rejoin the room. Uh, please bear with us as we get our speaker back into the room. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, uh, I understand that guest speakers having issues with his network because it's raining in Bayelsa State, Nigeria. Uh, However, this topic we are treating today is feeding us with. It's such a vital one for a lot of reasons, mainly in our attempt to fathom how we arrived at where we are today, our current situation. Oh, I see him coming in. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. Welcome back, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're on mute, sir.
Yeah, okay. We are back, right?
Please, yes, you're back. Continue.
Okay,
You're on.
so I was just making the point that in the present 36 states and a federal capital configuration in this country, because of what the British set with an intent to balkanize us so that Ijaws will not have their strength, will not gain grounds. It was deliberate. The system of balkanization has continued unabated. And today, apart from Bayelsa, which is the homogeneous state for Ijaws, all other states where Ijaws are balkanized, we are minorities with other dominant groups, even though those are also minorities in the country like us. And truth be told, if the Ijaw area is united as a territory, our claim is not false. We are the fourth largest tribe in this country. But this is the sorry fate that has befallen us. Now, in 2014, which marks 100 years from the year Nigeria was amalgamated, the amalgamation of Nigeria 1914 to 2014 is a century. And by that 2014, an Ijaw man was president of this country. We're talking of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. The question to naturally ask would be, as a patriot, as an activist, were these things I'm discussing now, was it known to the politicians? If they did know it as we know it, because they are public issues, what is the work of a politician when you get, every politician must have a conviction of what you want to do for your people. And so when you get into office, you have to work to achieve that agenda. The chairman BOT of the Ijaw National Congress, the apex umbrella body that prosecutes and pursues the Ijaw struggle, which basically is anchored on this concept of we want to be united in politically and administrative structures to govern ourselves. That which we did not get starting from 1939 has been the fulcrum, is the underpinning of this Ijaw struggle. We are still fighting to be united, not to be balkanized.
And I don't see any other thing that is the fundamental and foundation of the Ijaw struggle. So we had Paklak, who is chairman of the BOT of INC. He was the father to Mr. President politically. We are these same things we are talking to the knowledge of our own political leaders. If that is the case, the 2014 conference was supposed to be a make or man conference as far as defining this issue of Ijaw desire to be united in a single or component political units, which is undiluted. But by the time the recommendations for creation of states came out, 19 states were recommended. That means the country Nigeria would have increased to 55 states. But out of 55 states that they recommended Nigeria to be, sadly, there was no single homogeneous Ijaw state as the Ijaws demanded for Toribe State and Oil River State. And that's why I said that Ijaw territory map should be popped up. You see that the way we have configured ourselves, the Toribe State is to cater for all Ijaws, bringing all of them together from Delta State to Edo State, all the way to Ondo, while the Oil River State is to take out all the Ijaws in River State as they are today and add the Eastern Obolo and Ebeno people of Akwa Ibom State. But they are there in Akwa Ibom, and even a governor, Godswill Akpabio, even said there are no Ijaws in Akwa Ibom. This is how bad. So my own position is that if our agenda, our objectives of interest in Ijaw national reforms, the key issues, number one, will be this our resolve, this our determination that we want to be a united people, not balkanized. If it is one state, then they should even redo the boundary adjustments so that bring all of us together. For that to happen, the crucial thing is that it is the Ijaw people themselves that must make that demand. If all the Ijaws of the Oil Rivers extraction and the Toribe State extractions they are in different states, if they can revisit what Ijaw people did in the Western region in 1967, when River State was created, there was something they called the merger movement. The merger movement was that Ijaw people want to join their kith and kin in River State. That way, they will not be balkanized. Go and check the records. The chief opponent of the merger movement, at that time, very young lawyer, Ijaw lawyer, very influential, because we didn't have much lawyers. But at that time, we were unfortunate because he did not see or believe in the reasons for merger. So he opposed the people who spearheaded the merger movement. I'm talking of Paklak, 1967. And we are repeating the same mistakes when even he is old and sat as chairman of the State Creation Committee of the 2014 conference. All the decisions, recommendations on creation of state was taken in his house. And a sitting president of Nigeria was Ijaw. And we ended up having nothing to write home about. Now, the big problem, like everything you set a precedent, it follows Nigeria history and undo you in the future. The truth is that sometime in future, when we want to reconfigure Nigeria, they will say, look, it was your own Ijaw man who was president. Your own father was the chairman of State Creation Committee, and they recommended this configuration without considering your Toribe and Oil Rivers. What are you talking? They can go ahead to create 19 more states as they intended. Who says that is dead? It's not dead. So when some people accept that 2014 confab report and all the rest and resolutions, the INC said, no, we don't accept it because it falls far short of our minimum demands as Ijaw people. I was then acting president of the Ijaw National Congress, and we had to make it unequivocally clear through a press release that was published in the Guardian newspaper of Nigeria at pages 20 to 21. We made our position clear that is unacceptable. The issue number 2 I formulated is what I call the concept of federal system resource contribution. I will begin by quoting 2 great men in this country who were founding fathers. The first one is Obafemi Awolowo, and the second one is Sir Ahmadu Bello, the Sardana of Sokoto. When you read these 2 quotations, you will see what each of them had as a ideological pursuit in terms of the economic management of this country. Awolowo said, in a capitalist society, whether it is a federation or not, it is dishonest in the extreme to insist on sharing another state's wealth on any basis other than which the rules of the capitalist game allow. In this kind of society, every state is entitled to keep whatever accrues to it, either by the sweat of its brow, by cunning, or the unaided bounty of nature. To accuse a rich state of lack of patriotism simply because it insists on keeping practically whatsoever accrues to it is unrealistic and untenable. But I will add, Chief Awolowo, during the war, during the Civil War, he became a prime minister. He became a minister of the Federal Republic under Gowon. And as somebody who was now involved, he was the one who suggested, and they now enacted the Petroleum Act of 1969. So that all the revenue, all the money will now accrue to Federation account without following the earlier constitutional principle, which was every region keep 50%. I will come to that very soon, but let me just dwell on what Chief Awolowo's take was. But for the Sardana, this was what he said. The new nation called Nigeria should be an estate of our great-grandfather Uthman Dan Fodio. We must ruthlessly prevent a change of power. We use the minorities in the north as willing tools and the south as a conquered territory, and never allow them to have control over their future. So, if Ijaw people are subjugated and suppressed, if constitutional amendments cannot be wholesale to give us true federal, of course somebody is following the agenda of set by his fathers. So the Ijaw struggle enunciate a clear alignment with the thoughts and principles laid out by Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Indeed, it is in clear alignment with Chief Awolowo, nothing to take away from that. If you take a look at the 12-day revolution prosecuted by Major Isaac Jasper Atakaboro, it was based on this quest for justice and equity as regards what we contribute to the federation. Boro was simply asking the question that the operational law constitution that governed Nigeria in the 1960 constitution at independence and 1963 constitution at the Republican, at the time we turned a republic, it clearly said 50% derivation. Whatever revenue from whatever source, the generating region, you keep 50% and you contribute the other 50%. However, the North kept their groundnut, cotton, hide, and skin revenues. The West kept their cocoa, cotton, cola nut revenues. The East kept their palm oil, timber, coal revenues. And the Midwest, too, kept their rubber, timber, and palm oil revenues in that manner. But the crude oil and gas that had been discovered at Oloibiri, which shipment has started and started any revenue to the country Nigeria, was at no time brought under this particular principle. In other words, the people from whose area the oil was taken, the money was not brought to them. And Boro said, this is unjust. That was just the whole reason for the 12-day revolution. Moving forward, we are now 55 years away from when Boro did this 12-day revolution. But what is prevailing in Nigeria? In Boro's time, he was even not satisfied that 50% was not coming. Now, we are settled and comfortable with 13%. That is never changing, even when an Ijaw man is president of Nigeria. Even with executive powers, this principle can be changed because the Constitution itself says not less than 13%. So even from 1999, the new democracy we have entered to now, something should change. But Nigeria does not listen to a Ijaw man to change anything. Now you will recall again delegates from Ijaw extraction. They simply settled for tepid debates over the so-called derivation principle and other mundane rationalizations whereby that are not producing anything, we are now the ones seeking derivation. For example, the people who say they have Kainji Dam, so they want derivation. So permit me therefore to quote our guest speaker in the 2014 Ijaw Day, when we realized that what the Ijaw people need is what I call a bridge building approach through ethnic nationalities for us to now fundamentally reset that 2014 confab to deliver what the Ijaws want. That's why we brought retired Lieutenant General Lani Akinrade to deliver the Ijaw Day lecture. Coincidentally, it was then we even knew from his revelation, from his lecture, that the unit he commanded, the unit Alani Akinrade commanded, people like Boro, Nottingham Dick, all those people worked under him. So here is what Alani Akinrade said. If Jonathan, an Ijaw man, has been in government for about 6 years and has not changed the revenue mobilization and distribution system or implemented the United Nations UN report on cleaning up the environmental mess in Ogoni land, which cost $1 billion, it is clear that the issue is not who is in government, but the structure of the federal government. I've provided copy of Akinrade's lecture, which you will later share.
Engineer.
Yes, sir.
Is it okay to, on this note of the emergence of an Ijaw president, Goodluck Jonathan, is it okay that I request you take a pause in this presentation? Let's open up the floor, and we'll bring you back. I want you to finish this lecture, but I want to open this up so we can have exchanges from our viewers and our guests, participants in the house. So everyone may, at this point, unmute themselves. And if you have
let me make a fundamental, sorry, sir. Let me make a fundamental intervention on the Ijaw demand, okay, of this constitutional issue, so that we know that concept 2 is over. We have concept 3, 4, and 5 to go.
Please.
So that is why the Ijaw resolve, the Ijaw Nations resolve, and which was submitted to the National Confab in 2014, is that it is the present unitary federalism foisted on the country as an outcome of the 1966 military coup and others which followed that arbitrarily distorted the structures of a true federal state bequeathed to us at independence in 1963. And by extension, the 1963 Federal Constitution. Therefore, we wish to unequivocally appeal to your true and genuine consciences that our challenges and work should be to ensure the following: restructuring the country for true fiscal federalism and economic management on the basis of 100% of full resource control, and thus paying prescribed taxes in revenue sharing that is wholly enshrined in the constitution that is truly enacted by the sovereign people of Nigeria. We propose 10 federating region structure, retaining every other legislative powers except the following legislative powers ceded exclusively to the federal government, to include 7 items. Number 1 is defense and defense matters. Number 2 is foreign affairs. Number 3 is central banking. Number 4 is immigration and immigration. Number 5 is citizenship, naturalization, and aliens. Number 6 is aviation policy and regulations. And the last is nuclear energy. You see that minerals, whether solid or liquid or gaseous, ought not to be and must never be in the federal exclusive legislative list once you go back to the principles of true federalism. This is why the Ijaw National Congress issued that earlier press conference saying we do not accept the outcome of the 2014 conference, because in 2 fronts, the issue of uniting us as a people in administrative and political territories without dilution, it failed. The issue of revenue, control of resources, the confab still failed us absolutely and woefully. And this is why this issue of what I call resource contribution to the federal is issue number 2.
Thank you very much, engineer. This is such a fascinating topic. In fact, I call this the foundation of every other conversation. So I am not willing to move away from this too quickly. I'm not too willing to leave this subject matter. We have to reopen this. This is just the opening chapter of this conversation. So before I take questions from our participants today, I'd like you to, if you don't mind, engage this statement you have made uh, that the dividing of the country in 1939, you considered that problematic, but you also said that a true federal state was installed at independence. Can you reconcile this statement, please?
Okay. Why I made that statement is because it is only the processes leading to the independence of this country that our own leaders from a John nation, Chief Harold Dababrie, he led us. We were all part of the negotiations that led to independence. So it was not forced, it was not coercion, there was no coup, nobody pointed at gun and just midnight go and do a decree to remove all the structures. No, we negotiated. And that is the principle of federalism. If you negotiate and at the end everybody agreed that, okay, for the purpose of this union we are going to be in, this is going to be our, because even if you now make it 100% resource control, are you getting me? The truth is that you will pay taxes, and that tax will be amounting to a certain percentage. So that is why I made it that way. It was an agreed thing through negotiation.
Yes,
which is complete departure from when they started doing the military coups.
Yes, I guess my statement. Let me begin to hint at it. Uh, my statement is driving at the fact that when those negotiations were made, how knowledgeable do you think uh, the participating ethnic nationalities were? How knowledgeable, how informed were they? Because, like you said at the beginning, uh, the British dudes had a foresight. They knew something, especially in terms of the resources of this area. They knew how rich, how well endowed. They have done their studies. That means, in terms of cartography, the cutting out of the mapping of the area, the British guys knew something which I am assuming, let's say, I'm assuming that the ethnic nations were not aware. If the ethnic nations were not aware of what the British dudes were aware as at then, how just would you think these agreements for a united federal system would have been? Could you respond quickly, sir?
Well, it's as simple as that. If you talk of education, already the Willing Commission report that I quoted, they say our area, education was scanty, communication very difficult. Are you getting me? And then we are poor. So in every front, we were not in a very strong position to negotiate through that. But let's give credit to whatever was arrived at to achieve independence. And don't forget, the negotiations for independence worked because promises were made to Tapapiri and co. That don't worry, our main agenda, let us drive out the British, the white man. When we get to Nigeria, we are going to address all these problems of balkanization and whatever. But the problem is immediately our people came in, they started building on with what the British had done. Because at that time, they have seen the advantages that the resources they derive from minority areas was to their benefit. So that is simple.
Thank
And
you
that's
very
why
much.
the probing issue is, if our fathers were even naive, if our fathers even made mistakes, should we also continue in that naivety and mistakes? Now we know better.
Thank you. Thank you
If
very
you don't
much.
answer that question,
Yes.
then we're not serious.
Thank you very much. Now, this moves us directly to our present time, our present era. I received an email from a lady about the situation of development and conversation in the Ijaw land. So when we talk about development, more often, especially in terms of the genders, the women, the girl child is disproportionately disfavored. So I don't know. The floor is open now. I hope she's on the floor here. Yeah, I think I see her. I'd like the participants to unmute themselves, and if you have a question, you are free to go ahead and speak. Okay.
All right. Yeah. My name is Elizabeth Kings. Um, I'm from Delta State, Bomandi local government to be precise. I asked the question being raised right now. When we talk about development during former President Jonathan's time, and even with this current government, most of the developmental agendas put forward to our region, I don't normally see anything coming out of it positively, especially when it has to do with human capacity development. When you hear anything about human capacity development, it's always these inconsequential things like hairdressing, tailoring, and all this. Even with the implementation of this thing that Yaradua put in place. Oh, I've forgotten the name that Yaradua
Amnesty.
put in place. Amnesty, thank you. With the amnesty program, you find out that most of it was just this elemental skill things they teach Ijaw. Those that were sent abroad, because some of these people will say, oh, we sent a lot of people abroad to get them skills that they will require to survive. Ask them, who are the people sent abroad? People who cannot read or write, most of them. They come back, they don't know their left from their right. Somebody who cannot read and write, how can that person work in an oil company after being trained at deep water underwater deep, how is it called? Deep sea welding. They cannot come and function because they will not be able to write reports required. They will not be able to give an analysis of what they found out that is wrong with the equipment or something. So these people go, learn this, I don't know what they really learn, come back and remain where they are. Continue to be political talks and all of that. So my question now is, or rather, my concern is, if we are talking about key issues that are problematic to just, let us look at human capacity development as it is today in all industries, especially IT, also engineering, both civil, all of that. We have had enough lawyers now. We have enough doctors. I know we have a lot of doctors, although some of them are not in Nigeria. We have other professions. But when it comes to critical aspects, we have very few. What is stopping us from pushing, developing people, Ijaw people, both male and female in those areas? That's what I really want us to address. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if engineer, you want to respond to that. You are muted. You're muted. Engineer, you're muted. Okay.
Is it okay now? Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So I said in issue number 5, where I have dealt with what I call a concept of wholesale prosecution of the just struggle by INC, I have addressed those strategies because you can achieve what she's saying through political, economy, sociocultural, security, defense, and what I call the code, ethics, and governance. Are you getting me? So I would rather that my sister hold on and we'll get there.
Thank you very much.
Because those are government issues. It is structures you will use to achieve it. Are you getting me?
Yes.
It is structures you will use to achieve it. So if you achieve the issue number 1, which is uniting us in our territory, so that we'll put forward plans of our own, government and otherwise. 2, you achieve the issue number 2, which is the resource contribution, because we know what we generate. And at the end, all of it is taken out to other areas to develop those people. The little you have is meager. It's going nowhere because our own terrain and conditions are so difficult. You can't run away from that. Are you getting me? So what we need to do in issue number 3, where I've dealt with the constitution, what type of constitution is this that does not make us progress? It does not make us function well. It does not guarantee us peace. So this is the trend that will lead us to that strategic delivery of what we need for our people.
Thank you very much. I just want to make mention that these topics that Miss Elizabeth Kings has raised are very pertinent to my to my work and my interest, and it's I'd like us. This is going to be a full discussion. I'd like particularly to have at some occasion or event or a series of events to bring people on board to know exactly what is happening on the ground today. The impact of governance right now. We need to be able to address those issues while we speak about the the consequences of British conquest and encroachment, while we speak about the ethnic uh, binarity within the country, I think the Niger Delta itself requires some strain, particularly within the Ijaw committee of, people's leadership there, and how human life is being factored from day to day. You know, the other day I saw a picture. Was it a video? A picture of a school, you know, describing the education segment. It's very pathetic image we saw there. Whereas each time you see the picture of the governor somewhere, people praise the governor for doing nothing. I mean, literally doing nothing, celebrating. It's almost like we have entrenched a culture of mediocrity. We celebrate mediocres. I mean, a governor buys broomstick, you clap for him. You know, well, this is an issue for another day. I'd really like us to be respectful of our time. I intend for this event to not exceed an hour. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Excuse me. I keep calling you Ambassador. I hope it's not coming for you.
Maybe.
So,
Let it come for
engineer,
you.
and by the way, I'm hopeful that we'll have a second round in continuation of these conversation you just opened up. I'd like us to unravel more in the discourse of Ijaw struggle. Today, you have laid the issues for us. Maybe next time when we come, I would like us to take just one issue, right? Let's deal with them piecemeal. Take one of the issues, then let's begin to use those to address, you know, the concerns of people like Elizabeth King and myself. So on that note, I welcome everyone to this event. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you. And I ask that you subscribe to the research that we're doing. And for those of you who seek collaborators, who seek partnership, I want you to reach out to us, reach out to me. I can be found, just Google David Olali. It will take you to me. Just Google David Olali. You'd find me one way or the other. I'll continue to be in touch with all of you and trying to respond to questions as I am able. Thank you very much. I'll see you again. Thank you,
Thank
engineer.
you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Engineer,
Thank
well done. It was very
Welcome, madam.
insightful. Thank you so much.
You may unmute
Yeah.
yourselves, please.
Yeah, it
Just
was
know you
very
can read up the three
insightful.
other concepts.
I
All
learned
Just
right.
note, you can read out the three other concepts, which is the one
Mm.
on the constitution or we exit Nigeria, then the one on the environmental protection, remediation, and finally, what INC, Joint National Congress, should be doing to deliver on these things we enunciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Perhaps, David, if you have those documents, you can email it to the participants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to
Okay.
ask how we can get the breeding material.
Sure. Sure. I think we have all of your emails, but if not, if I think you're registered for you to come into this meeting. You're
Yeah.
registered. So we have your emails. So you'll expect something in the mail, in your email, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Dobro.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Engineer, thank you
Bye-bye.
so very much. That was a fascinating one.
You're welcome.
That was
Thank
a
you for giving
fascinating
me
one.
the platform.
We hope and thank God for the network too.
Sure, sure.
Thank God.
It started raining and then it started doing some fun, but then it came back on strong.
Yes, yes, yes. In fact, the area of internet is where I had thought the government in Bayelsa would be more invested, but I
We'll come around that. We'll come around that.
Oh,
Do you
hopefully.
know that even NDU, there is no dedicated feed?
Are you
There's
serious?
none. Yes. I told you. That's why the young man had to be sent to me by the ICT director. We had to now rely on some other arrangement outside the university. And fortunately, the Airtel network is good, so we got it through. That's fine.
Wow.
God bless you.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. I'll be in conversation with you and we'll have a second schedule.
Sure,
Thank you, sir.
sure.
Have a good one.